A small presentation for you all. And as I formally start this presentation, one shloka comes to my mind, and that is about the greatness, the magnanimity of teachers. It goes like this: Asati giri samam syat kajjalam sindhu patre patra muruvivim लिखत यदि गृहीत्वा शारदा सर्वकालम कदापि ताउ गुणानाम param najati. Has anybody heard this shloka before? Can anybody tell me what it means? You can use the chat box. It goes like this: if all the mountains were pounded and turned into one giant paper, if all the forests were cut down and one pen created from those trees, if all the ocean was converted into ink, and if Goddess Saraswati herself would sit and write down the gunas of a guru, the impact, the importance, the significance of a guru, even then, the qualities, the impact, the significance of a guru would not be sufficient enough to be written. That has been our culture. That has been our thought. That has been the reverence with which we have held our teachers. Kings have risen from the places where they are seated. They have sent their princes in the company of the sages and the rishis to Gurukulas to learn from them. That has been our tradition. So when I am encountered with a community like this, it fills me with great respect, as I already said. So welcome, friends. I'm too happy to take you through this session on leading with emotional intelligence. I'm very grateful to Dr. Dashmi Trivedi for getting me here, inviting me here, and allowing me to be a part of it. I'm also very grateful to SKB College of Pharmacy for organizing this event because it is a necessary. It is something that should be done on a regular basis, which gives us time and opportunity to interact and share our thoughts. A couple of things I'd just like to take up, friends, before we go further on this. How would you like the session to be conducted? Would you want this to be a dialogue? Would you want this to be a downloading? Would you want just me to speak and you to listen, or would you want this to be interactive? How would you want this?
Sir, the usual practice that we are having is the speaker talks and at the end we deal with the question. But you can also take it interactive because we have the chat box open all time.
Thank
It's
you.
just that with so many number of participants, it is a slight difficulty to unmute and that takes up a lot of time. So
Absolutely.
instead, if you work with the chat box, we would be okay with it as
Perfect.
how you want.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so very much, Madhura madam, for giving me this permission. And yes, we'll be using chat box. There is no need to unmute, except, of course, when there is
Yeah, at the end, sir, we take
yes,
up interaction, like
absolutely,
talking interaction.
absolutely. We'll do that. We'll definitely do that. And using the chat box, please be generous in using the chat box because that is where the entire energy and the emotion will come from. We will try to keep your fingers busy over the keyboard. Talking about the interaction part, I am not a big fan of just speaking on one end. I would definitely like you to be a part of it. Number one. Secondly, how would you be comfortable if I speak totally in English, or would you want a mixed language? I can speak English. I can speak Hindi. I
Sir,
can.
anything will do. We have participants from all over India.
Perfect.
So the
That's great.
national language and the global language both would do.
Oh, that would be Wonderful, Madhura madam. You're so accommodating. All right, dear friends. So here is how we will go. We'll keep flinging questions. We'll keep using the chat box. I would request, and I would sincerely request from your inputs in the form of your questions. If there are any, if at any point of time you find I'm not able to get to you and you're not able to grasp my point, please feel free to post your queries on the chat box. I shall keep having a look at that. As you can see, I'm logging in from two devices, so I shall keep shifting my gaze here and there. You will permit me the liberty because I might not look you in the face, but that doesn't mean that I'm not looking at you. All right, wonderful. Let's set this ball rolling. All right. So my first question to you is, what do you see in this slide? Please use the chat box. Thank you, Niyamat. You said it is going to be, you want this to be interactive. I shall try to keep it as interactive as possible. You see a device and displayed and on your screen. Please let me know what that is. Saroja says it's a clock. I'm afraid it is not a clock. Please look carefully. Compass. Weather meter. Yes, madam, there is a name for that. You are very pressure gauge. Yes, of course. GPS. Does a GPS look like that? Thank you, Sachin. Compass, Jyoti. No, no, it's not a compass. It's definitely not a compass. Weather meter. Okay, weather indicator. Thank you. Now you are observing. Timer. Definitely not a timer, Dr. Nitya. It's not a timer at all. Mind indicator. Oh God. Compass. No, it's not a compass. It's not a mind indicator. It's a weather indicator. It is wind meter. Okay, no, it's not a wind meter, I'm afraid. Well, Dr. Madhura got it right. It is a weather meter in her language. We call it a barometer. It's a barometer. What does a barometer do? A barometer measures the atmospheric pressure, and based on that, we are able to predict the kind of weather that we will be having. But here, we are not going to measure the atmospheric weather. Here, we would like to measure what our mood is. So I'll be using this barometer to measure your mood. Would you like that? We are talking about emotional intelligence, so we should measure the mood, isn't it? So what we will do is, dear friends, we would, I would request for two things that from your side. You see this picture? You see this picture? Yes. So what I will do is request you to do is pick up an emoji that best describes how you are feeling right now. And please post it in the chat box along with the word that describes it. So two tasks. Pick up an emoji which is aligned with what you are feeling right now. Okay. And a word that describes what you are feeling right now. Both the things, please use the chat box. What are you feeling right now? Smiling face, happy, smiling, okay? Smiling, happy, okay? Smiling with peace. What is three? Acha, it's coming as three in my chat box. Is that an emoji you are using?
Yes, sir. Like participants have numbered it
Okay,
because there is no way to
I understand. I
identify.
understand. Great, great. So three is a smiley emoji. Okay, the middle one. Uh, okay. No, I'm not asking you to measure the emoji of the eggs. I'm asking you to measure how you are feeling. Okay, curious, curious. That's a good. That's a good feeling. Smiling. Okay, wonderful. We'll have some few more. We'll have few more. Relax and tension free. Oh, Dr. Mega, I'm so grateful to you for that. Confused, Ashwin. Why are you confused? Okay, Dr. Gauri, three no happy. Okay, three number happy. Okay, got it. You can use the emoji in your keyboard, in your devices. You don't have to be guided by what is there in the tray. The middle one smiling and eager to learn. Okay, thank you, Nita. Thank you so much. We'll have a couple of more and then we shall move it forward. Anxious to learn. Thank you. Thank you so very much. So you're happy, you're contented, you're eager to learn, you're anxious to learn. Great. So that gives me an idea about the kind of mood that you are in. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so very much for your generosity, dear friends. So what do you see before you? I have another question, right? And the question is, why are we here? When I say here, I don't mean here in this mountain. I mean here in this session. Why are you here? What is your expectation from this session? What do you hope to learn? Some of you said you are anxious to learn, but what it is. And as you can see, I have put together a document. So please, on a piece of paper at your end, write down or you can type out your expectations. You can also see my picture at the bottom of this document. I look like that. So, what is your expectation? Please let me have an idea of it. Expand the mind. Okay, thank you, Niyamat. To learn to control emotions, to know how can we have increased EQ. Okay, okay, different ways to tackle situations. Okay, hmm. Emotional intelligence, achieve some great things, to learn how to be stress free in life. Okay, to achieve the goal. Thank you, Alpna. Thank you, Dr. Arti. Thank you, Sarvaja. Thank you, Dr. Shilpa. To learn the art of life. Thank you, Gautam. Exponential quality. Okay, Ashwin, that's interesting. That's interesting. It's really interesting. I'm waiting for a couple of more responses. We have almost 24 participants. Only to fulfill social goals. Oh, you are here just to fulfill your social goals. All right, Sachin, thank you. So gathering some experience from you, sir. Thank you, Abul Hayat Chaudhary. Okay, to learn how to live. All right. To learn heartfulness. All right. All right. Thank you. Understanding myself to learn how we can build positivity in life to achieve towards mental satisfaction. Thank you. Thank you, dear friends. Please have a look at this story. I would request you to please go through it. A belligerent samurai, an old Japanese tale goes, once challenged a Zen master to explain the concept of heaven and hell. The monk replied with a scorn, "You're nothing but a lout. Lout is a lump. Lout is someone who's, you know, badmash ho, bekar aadmi ho. Can't waste my time with the likes of you." His very honor attacked, the samurai flew into a rage and pulling his sword from its scabbard. Scabbard कहते हैं म्यान. He yelled, "I could kill you for your impertinence." आपकी बदतमीजी के लिए मैं आपको आपकी जान भी ले सकता हूँ. And that, the monk calmly replied, is hell. Startled at seeing the truth in what the master pointed out about the fury that had him in his grip, the samurai calmed down, sheathed his sword, and bowed, thanking the monk for the insight. And the monk said, "That is heaven." My question to you is, what is this story all about? What is the idea this story is trying to portray? Could you get the understanding? What is the idea behind this story? Can I have some inputs? Controlling the mind? Is it about that? Yamat, thank you. Please probe further. Please probe deeper. Calmness of the mind is a real heaven, rages hell. Okay, Kanchan. Journey from hell to heaven. Oh, wonderful, Sunny. I'm glad you said that. Thank you so much. I'm glad you said that. Life is like heaven. Okay, Saroja. Thank you. All depends on the perception. Okay, but where does perception come from? How do we create that perception? I'd just like you to think. Practicing the pause before acting. Yes. How to correlate the person's reaction to this type of personality. Okay. Everything is in our own hands. Yes, Smita. Of course. Mind game, is it, Dr. Gori? Is it a mind game? See, the idea is the sudden awakening of the samurai to his own uh, agitated state of mind illustrates the crucial difference between being caught up in a feeling and becoming aware that you are being swept away by it. Does it make sense? The difference between being caught up in a feeling and becoming aware that you are being swept away by it. How many times can we make that distinction? We have all been swept away by emotions. We have all have had episodes wherein we have been in the grip of anger or any powerful emotion and we have had no recall of it. And that is what the difference between heaven and hell is. Heaven is about control, heaven is about regulation, heaven is about awareness. When you realize that you are being victimized, you are being in a whirlpool of emotions. So you hold yourself back, isn't it? And that is where Socrates said, know thyself, gnotis euton, oracle of Delphi. These words are inscribed. It speaks to the keystone of emotional intelligence, awareness of one's own feelings as they occur. Makes sense to you? And that is what this session is going to be about. You see, the most common half truth about leadership is that it's just a matter of charisma and vision. You either have it or you don't. But the fact of the matter is that leadership skills are not just inborn, they can be acquired and developed and honed and improved. But first, you have to appreciate what leadership is and what leadership is not. So let me ask you a question. Two things, two terms run simultaneously very close in all the context, leadership and management. So, what is leadership and what is management? What can you say? How do you differentiate between leadership and management? Any inputs? Can you tell me the difference? How do you differentiate between this? Leadership talks about being the example and showing the way. Okay, Niyamat, thank you. Management is about delegation. Okay, so I take it that all of you, management is a skills, all right, getting the work done. Leader decides the ways of management. Okay, Dr. Gauri. Hmm. Any further? So I take it that all of us are from academic background and all of us are teachers, but along with being a teacher, we also have to do some of the other of academic administration tasks. So are we leaders or are we managers? Taking cue from what you all said, I have a thought to share. Management is about coping with complexity. It brings order and predictability to a situation, isn't it? But that's no longer enough. We have had managers. We need something more. And what it is that we need to have, like in current times, these COVID times, the past 7 8 months that all of us have been. Did we require or do we require managers here, or do we require leaders here? And if you focus closely, you will find that this kind of situation, which is a change situation for all of us, we don't just require managers, we require leaders, isn't it? So management involves planning and budgeting, but leadership involves setting up of a direction. Management requires administration like organizing and staffing, but leadership involves aligning people. Many of you would have been departmental heads getting your faculty together and conducting classes over platforms you have never used before. And look at this gradual coherence that you have developed, guiding towards something which was something which you had not been familiar with. I mean, if 9 months back somebody would have asked me to conduct a session like this on Zoom, I would not have known. Then the entire college being run into an online mode, we have never seen that. We have never seen that, but we made that happen. We learned, and each of us in our own sphere displayed this kind of leadership, isn't it? So management provides control and solves problem, but leadership provides motivation. How does this play out in the academic context? What are your thoughts? Are we, as all of us, are we academic managers or are we academic leaders? I want to ask this question to you. Let me hear from you. What would you say? Are we academic managers or are we academic leaders? Mona is quick. Leaders, leaders, leaders. Now, I'm not talking about the role, I'm talking about what we do, what we actually do. No, Ashwini, we cannot be leading managers. We can either be leaders or be managers. We cannot be both. If you have to make a choice, if you have to make one choice, one selection, hmm, managers. We manage things. Niyamat says being leader is more of an intrinsic quality. That is exactly what we are trying to explore. And that is exactly the caveat that I took, that it is not just an intrinsic quality, it is something that can be learned, can be developed. So the possibility, the opportunity, the potential of being a leader in all sphere of all the magnitude that you want is available to all of us. And that is exactly what this session is all about. How sorry, how we can develop that. The task decides the role. Is it? Or is it something greater than that? Do you think the leaders who we call as leaders, it was the task which decided their role? Or was it because they had decided on their role and then when they played that role, their task became large? Dr. Gauri, think it over. Because I think that it wasn't the task that decided, it was they themselves that decided on the role which they had to play. And then the task was just a byproduct. The task flowed from that role which they had decided for themselves. Okay, let me, I leave you with this thought. Let me take you further. Please have a look here. Please have a look here and please go through the statement that is there in the box. So what is the central thought outlined in the slide? What is the slide all about? One word, if I ask you, what is the central theme of this slide? Yeah, visionary. Okay, I'm glad you said that. Teamwork. Okay, think further, Dr. Rashmi. Vision is about what, Niyamat? Vision is about a direction. isn't it? No, not just teamwork. Teamwork has to be aligned towards something. Motivation is a component of teamwork. Merely teamwork, if it is not aligned towards a direction, is useless. Doesn't have that, what shall I say, धार नहीं होती. टीमवर्क का एक पर्पस होना चाहिए ना, to reach a goal. Yes, Abdul Hayat. Understanding about what? It is about direction. When you give a direction, everything comes up. The motivation comes, the teamwork comes, the alignment comes, isn't it? You've heard about Pygmalion effect, you see? So the function of leadership is to produce change. Direction matters. Yes, I'm glad you said that, Mona. Thank you so much. Setting the direction of that change is fundamental to leadership. Setting direction is never the same as planning or even long term planning, although people confuse the two. Setting the direction is equivalent to planning. There is a difference. What is the difference? What is the difference between planning and setting a direction? Can anybody tell me? Or is there a difference? Do you agree there is a difference between planning and setting a direction? Planning can happen without having a direction to go. Yes, I'm glad you said that. So that what makes planning it then? Is it a management activity or is it a leadership activity? See, planning is a management process. It is deductive in nature. You are like academicians, you understand what is deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning, isn't it? From general to specific, you need to have a structure, you're coming down to specific. That is deduction. And that is what planning is. Because some routine processes have been having, so you plan for a expected future. But leadership is different. Planning is designed to produce an orderly results, not change. Setting a direction is more inductive. And since change is the function of leadership, being able to generate highly energized behavior is important for coping with the inevitable barriers to change. I ask you a question. When you were asked to shift from offline to online mode, was the shift easy or were you faced with difficulties? Did you face challenges? Slight challenge. Only Niyamat seems to have faced challenge. Thank you for your response. It was very quick one. I really appreciate that. Recent times, in this COVID times, when you were asked to, of course, time will be required, but when you were asked to conduct shift from a totally offline to an online mode. I don't know about you, but people have reported that they had huge trouble bringing people into that mind frame, bringing people into that mind frame of having classes which are going to be run virtually. And it's not just about technical know-how, it is not just about being familiar with platforms, it is about how you conduct. Many of us are habitual of holding a marker or a chalk in our hands. Many of us love the feel of the registers, attendance registers that we carry. Many of us love the way that human element happens when we interact. And all this is not there in online interaction. So our motivation levels are different. Our acceptance levels are different. Maybe we are accepting because out of compulsion, but not out of our own choice. Are we motivated to accept that? No. If I ask you, are you really motivated to accept this kind of scenario? No. It is compulsion, not a choice. Then that is what the major response is. So if this shift in attitude is to be brought even in our classrooms, how many students can you claim that are who are as comfortable in online as in offline? The connection with them is as comfortable as it was in offline. So you had a great deal of challenge. You had a great deal of challenge in bringing them together. And as a leader, as a teacher leader, I would say you would require leadership to make it happen, isn't it? And that is why talking about leadership or learning about leadership or knowing about leadership is contextual, is significant, it's relevant to people like us, all of the teaching community. Because if you look at it, the role of a teacher and the role of a leader are very closely aligned. As a matter of fact, the greatest teachers have been greatest leaders, and vice versa. The greatest leaders have been greatest teachers, isn't it? Only 2 to 5 students respond to our questions. Yes, Dr. Nirmal. Well, even I have the same experience. You can see in my chat box how many of us are responding right now. And imagine how to bring this cohort together. So, what I'm trying to tell you is that an emotionally intelligent leader is able to set a direction and inspire his team members to follow more effectively than other leaders. And this is what researchers have demonstrated. Yes, Ashwin, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, very good name that you mentioned. Look at him. So, what was he able to inspire? What was he able to do? Yeah. So, I'd like to ask you, why is EI or emotional intelligence relevant to teachers? I ask you this. Why do you think? We have been discussing about EI, so you have a fairly good idea about EI, isn't it? So, why do you think it is relevant to you as teachers? And how does it help you? Is my voice clear? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Create a bond with the students. Thank you, Prashant. Let me see, because we're dealing with students, with humans, knowing their temperament, they're grasping. Okay. What more? What more? As teachers have to only teach, but also motivate. Okay. Okay. Empathy. Thank you, Arya. Thank you. Is it only about students, or does it have a larger impact? Is it only about teacher and a student, or does it have a larger impact? It is fulfilling to us. Thank you, Niyamat, for saying that. I must thank you. And that is the bottom line. Bottom line, Niyamat. Thank you. I'm so glad you got that point. It is not just about students. At the end of the day, it is about us. It is about us transforming ourselves. It is about us metamorphosing into a better human being. It is also not only about we versus our students, it's also about the team that we exist in. Many of you might be HODs, departmental heads. Many of you would be having a junior faculty members at your command, a group. How do you take them along? How do you bring them together and develop and nurture them and take them along? In your departments, in your colleges, in your universities, you'd be having different heads, and there will be different activities simultaneously running in your respective departments. And you will feel that some departments outperform others. How so many of you would be deans who are at the middle management level? How do you initiate change from there? And I'll tell you, researchers have demonstrated that the maximum change comes from the middle management level, because the top level is just the policymakers. They can only design a policy. They can never be the agents of change. and the bottom rung are just implementers. They only, sorry, the executors, they only execute. It is the middle management level, the director, dean level, which is the implementers. So that there is a greater need for leadership to be demonstrated at this level. Do you think I'm making some sense? Do you think this is something which you are relating with? And that is why, thank you, Niyama, thank you, Nita. And that is why it is imperative, it is absolutely imperative that we need to learn about leadership not merely from an academic perspective, but because it is going to be our way forward. You would agree with me that, particularly these COVID times that we have been through, it has changed the way we do business, we do our activities or transactions drastically. Do you understand? Now, the greatest challenge, I don't know whether you're aware of it, but there is something known as Mind Valley. There is a university, I don't know what it is, in an organization, and they are claiming that formal education is going to change. Already we had Coursera and Udemy. Coursera is offering online universities degrees, and whether we can debate whether those degrees are valid or not valid, or significant or not significant, but online education has come up in a huge manner. And if you see, every day there are new players who are moving in. You have Upgrad, you have Tutorix, you have so many platforms. And that is how the future of education is going to transform. And it is going to change the face of education. So this is the magnitude of change that we are looking at. And if we have to drive this change forward in our own departments to be able to sustain this change, we need to have leadership. Even if we are not working in any uh, corporate environment, even if we are working in academic kind of setting. So, how is this EI linked to leadership, or how emotions are linked to leadership? So, we have a concept it's known as primal leadership. We'll be talking about that. I shall mention it in the chat box for your understanding. It's called primal leadership. Of it says that of all the elements affecting the bottom line performance, the importance of leaders' moods and its attendant behavior are most surprising. This powerful pair, I mean, leaders' mood and its behavior. You understand what is a mood and what is a behavior and what is an emotion? Do you know? Can you differentiate mood, emotion, and behavior, or emotion, mood, and behavior? How do you differentiate between mood and emotion? Can you tell me the difference? Any one of you? Emotion is something specific. You feel it. Yes, yes, of course. Emotion is specific. It is, you feel it for a shorter duration. You feel it, it goes, you feel the intensity, it goes away. And every emotion is linked with an action. Emotion, not mood. Mood is more of a diffuse state. You see, mood is the outcome of an emotion. Let's say, for example, you report to your university a little late one day for some reason. Okay, and the moment you report late, that is the first day you have been late, although you are a punctual person. But unfortunately, that is the date your dean or your vice chancellor or your director or your head catches you coming late and gives you a tight bashing. You what emotion will you feel? You'll feel anger, subdued anger. That may be other thing. But because of that short duration, you will feel anger. The entire day, you may not be feeling anger, but you will not feel your normal sense, and that is your mood. Okay, emotions are triggered by events, a specific event. Mood are more generalized. What primal leadership talks about is that the leader's mood, his emotional state, and the behavior which is associated with that state impacts his colleagues, his surroundings. So if you have an HOD, or if you have a director, or if you yourself are in a bad mood, your class gets impacted, your departmental persons get impacted, your team gets impacted. And if it is a regular phenomena, it regularly gets impacted. Just reflect, just go back to your colleagues, to the people you are working with. Some of us have got a very notorious reputation. People who are strict, people who are straightforward, people who are blunt, people who are mean, or people who are so very committed that they don't allow emotion to intervene. So they won't listen to your pleas, they won't listen to anything else. And ask yourself how it is like working with them. Do you enjoy? Do you feel like being a part of it, or are you there out of compulsion because you have to pay your EMIs? And that is the difference. Do I make sense, friends? Do I make sense? Is it ringing some bell? You see, high levels of emotional intelligence, researchers have shown, creates climates in which information sharing, trust, healthy risk taking, and learning flourish. Whereas low levels of emotional intelligence creates climate which is filled with fear and anxiety. Because tense or terrified employees can be very productive in the short term, and their organizations may post good results, but it is not a continuous thing. It is not for long term. And unfortunately, that is what um, is plaguing our Indian system nowadays. Emotional intelligence is carried through an organization like electricity through a wire. You see, like you switch on and the entire building gets enlightened, like electricity. Same case with emotional intelligence. So, if the leader is practicing emotional intelligence or is well versed with emotional intelligence, the entire organization gets light up. To be more specific, if I take this corollary forward, the leader's mood is quite really contagious. Contagious, you understand, that which easily spreads. Diseases होती हैं contagious, है ना? Diseases that is spread like this COVID-19, this virus. I keep coming back to this example. It's contagious. It spreads. So the same manner, the leader's emotion, the mood which he's in, it spreads quickly throughout the department and it impacts the business as well. We call it, with the term that we are using, is mood contagion. Practice this. You smile and the whole world smiles with you. You enter your department, you give a smile, even to the persons you don't know, even to the students that you don't know, even the students who don't know you, they reciprocate that kind of a smile. Yeah. So if you are an inspirational, upbeat leader, you cultivate positive employees who embrace and surmount even the toughest challenge. So those of you who have found it easier to bring on board your students, your colleagues, your departmental heads onto this shift, they have been able to do so because subconsciously they have been practicing EI. they have been practicing emotional intelligence, or they have been doing something which is more close to being an emotionally intelligent person. That is how they have been able to make things move forward. Make sense? Let me, shall we go further? So, great leadership works through emotions. There is a term which we use in terms of leadership. It is called resonance. If there are any people uh, who are from physics background, they will understand this. I'll type it out in the chat box. Resonance. Can anybody tell me what this is? Can you tell me what this is? Anyone? Okay. Uh, have you heard about when frequency matches? Oh, wonderful. Have you heard about this gentleman? The name you see on the chat box. Dr. Ratan Tata. Positivity resonance. Yes, PV Swami. Tansen. Have you heard about Tansen? He was a legendary musician. Yeah. So it is said about Tansen that he had a room in which there were many veenas which were kept. Veenas, you understand? It is a stringed instrument. Veena hoti na? माँ सरस्वती के हाथों में भी वीणा है. It's a stringed instrument. So you pluck the strings and it creates music. And it is said that in one of his room, Tansen had lot many veenas. Yes, it's a stringed instrument, and he would play one veena, and the stage would come when the veena which he played would be played, of course, but then all the other veenas kept in the room will start emitting the same sound. You see, the sound would not come merely from the veena played by Tansen, it would come to all the veenas who were kept there. You see, that was resonance. In leadership, we adopted this term and we said the emotion, the mood of the leader being resonant with all the team members. And why only mood? Even the ideas. So you impact your team members, your students in the same manner. So this book, Resonant Leadership, says the leader has the maximal power to sway everyone's emotions. And if people's emotions are pushed towards the range of enthusiasm, performance can soar. That is how you make people more acceptable to change. Human beings are wired to be emotional. Understand this thing. It's not that someone is more emotional than the other. No, all of us are emotional. We all are emotional, every one of us. And there is no way to change the circuit to make them think otherwise. It's the only ultimate thing that makes us humans. So it would make sense then to focus on emotions when someone is trying to lead a group, isn't it? Make sense or not? So, talking about resonance and what is the opposite of resonance? It is dissonance. When you are out of tune, it's like playing a piano. So, if there's a musician who's playing a piano, he will play it in a different manner. But suppose I get to play a piano, what will happen? You will cover your ears and probably run away. Awkward and sloppy. So, great leaders lead with resonance, with everyone, combining their efforts to create a smooth, wonderful masterpiece. Dissonant leaders create an ineffective, disorganized mess. Yeah, your actions are not in alignment with your emotions. How can they be? Here, what I am trying to tell you, Niyamat, is that you just need to tune into the emotional architecture of your team members. I say team members, but your team members can be your students if you're in a class, can be your departmental members if you're in a department, can be your other colleagues if you look at the greater ripple. And once you tune into their emotion, their actions will already be inclined. हमारे चैलेंज क्या होता है? हमारा चैलेंज होता है कि साहब बच्चे सुनते नहीं. This is a common complaint. And why only in class? Why only in class? हमारे खुद के बच्चे नहीं सुनते, हमारी धर्मपत्नी नहीं सुनती, हमारे पिताजी नहीं सुनते, हमारे सासू माँ नहीं सुनती, चाचा भतीजा नहीं सुनते, पड़ोसी नहीं सुनते. ये कॉमन कंप्लेंट है. Think it over. Those of you who are living in societies, you know, when you have those society meetings, you have seen those arguments happening, you have seen fighting happening. Why? Because we have not been able to create, generate, tune in to the requisite emotional state. That is why there are conflicts. That is why there are arguments. That is why there are fractions in thought in relationships. So, if you are leading, dear friends, in a class, in a room, in any group, the important thing to keep in mind is groups have moods and needs and they act collectively. कभी सोचिएगा, I don't know how many of you have had this experience. You want to be shown as someone who's very strict, who do not tolerate nonsense. So what do you do? I did this once in my initial days when I started teaching. So what I would do is I would bolt my door, not allowing any late entry, because that is what discipline is all about. And I found one day post lunch, I bolted my door. There were 10 students outside. I did not allow them. And the next day I came to the class. I just could not take my class properly. The class did not respond. The class did not connect. They did not say anything. They did not do anything which was considered to be impolite. But I could see the vibes and I related that the emotions of the class were hurt because I was harsh towards those 10 students who were late. I may have maintained discipline, but I lost connect with that class that day. And it took me many months to get back into that connection. It did not happen for that semester. It happened in the next semester. Now, I am not talking about being lenient, being promoting indiscipline. No, I'm talking about a different concept altogether. I'm talking about the importance of identifying the emotional mood. I learned later on that they were preparing for some kind of activity and they got engaged and then they got late. So they were justified. I did not know that. And this happens a lot when we are leading a group. Getting that? All right. Let me take you further. I have a look at this uh, slide. I have a question for you. What makes a leader? What are the attributes of a leader? What are the qualities of a leader? And how can you be a leader? Or how can leadership be taken? What makes a leader for that matter? So enough of talking from my side. I would like to listen to you. Good listener. Apart from that, beyond that, attitude, vision. Okay, Rashmi, thank you. You say vision. Risk taking ability. Okay, apart from that, personal attributes, qualities of a leader, lifting up others. Okay, The boss says do, the leader says let's do. Yes, Dr. Shilpa, he does that, but how is it possible? Can you be a leader just by saying let's do? What makes a leader say let's do? Understanding the psychology of the team members. How are you able to understand the psychology of the team members? How do you understand the psychology of your students? Decision making. How do leaders make good decisions? Flexibility, adaptive decision making. Creating example. How do they create example? Stepping into their shoes. What is that called? Motivating person. How? Rashmi, EQ, yes. But what is EQ, Dr. Rashmi? Connecting with all. Okay. How are you able to connect? The ability to take all members as a team with the proper direction. How, again, you're talking, but tell me how. I mean, if I was to ask you, how can I become a leader? What would you tell me? You should be able to advise me, Ashish, do this, and you'll be a leader. देखिए हम लीडरशिप की क्लास इसलिए नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं कि हमें कोई एग्जाम पास करना है। हम लीडरशिप की क्लास इसलिए पढ़ रहे हैं बिकॉज हमें ये सीखना है कि हम ये कैसे बनेंगे, हाउ डू वी change, how do we transform ourselves, isn't it? So we need to we need to know the practicality of it. Understanding one's strength and weaknesses, maybe, what is that called? Something they can emulate, yes, but how? Okay, let me ask you one more question. Okay, if there is one word which you can use to substitute leadership, which comes closer or which captures the essence of what leadership is, what would that be? एक शब्द जो लीडरशिप का मतलब उसका जो तत्व है उसको मतलब ग्रहण कर सकता है, वो शब्द क्या है? What is that word which comes closest to capturing the idea, the meaning of leadership or a leader? What would that be? Shows way, motivational, guide. How is he able to guide? How is he able to motivate? Suppose he shows you the way and you don't follow. Doesn't it happen? आप अपने पूरी शिद्दत से, पूरी सच्चाई से, पूरे एफर्ट से अपने स्टूडेंट्स को कुछ बात बताते हो. Do they follow? Partner in work, encourage them. You do that, but do your students follow? Don't answer me. Just think. Don't answer me. Just think. And if it is sometimes, it means that it is not leadership, because if it is leadership, it has to be every time. क्या कहते हैं? चल पड़े जिधर दो डग, चल पड़े कोटि पग. How do you create that kind of impact? Yes, knows the way, goes the way, shows the way, but he is doing it for himself. If I don't follow that, his leadership is immaterial, Niyamat, isn't it? The leader does all this, but if he is not able to generate that kind of impact on me, it's useless. His leadership is useless, and it happens. So the one word is which comes closest to leadership is influence. Don't you agree? A leader is able to exercise influence. And because he's able to exercise influence, he's able to motivate, he's able to impact, he's able to change your decisions. He's able to do anything and everything just because he's able to influence. He's able to impact you at that level, isn't it? So how can you generate that kind of influence? Wouldn't you want to do that? The people that we come across in our lives, the people who we hold as ideals, who we hold as role models, who we want to become. Many of you would be subconsciously copying your own teachers who you would have held in great honor, great esteem, great regards. You would have adopted the way they walk, you would have adopted the way they come to the class, you would have adopted the way they hold the registers in their hands, the way they conduct the class subconsciously. That is the kind of influence they have had on you. And it is because they exemplified, they were the epitome of some kind, some traits, some qualities. Do I make sense? सच कह रहा हूं? अग्री करते हैं मुझसे? Do you agree with me? Thank you. So my point is that if we want to create that kind of influence, if we want to create that kind of impact, what it is that we need to do. And the answer is what we have been discussing since the start of this session. That is what emotional intelligence is all about. So, emotional intelligence is all about equipping a leader with that kind of impact, that kind of influence. It means if a leader wants to be impactful, if a leader wants to be influential, he can be so if he practices what is known as emotional intelligence. तो हम सब अगर उतने ही प्रभावशाली होना चाहते हैं जैसे कि वो लोग हैं जिनसे हम प्रभावित हैं, जिनको हम फॉलो करते हैं, तो हम वैसे हो सकते हैं अगर हम इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस को प्रैक्टिस करें. एंड व्हाट इज दैट इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस? क्या है ये इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस? तो ये इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस 5 तत्वों का बना हुआ एक समूह है. This emotional intelligence is made up of 5 components. One is self-awareness, another is self-motivation, third is self-regulation, fourth is empathy, and the fifth is social skills. These 5 attributes, these 5 qualities combined together to form emotional intelligence, to form a competency known as emotional intelligence. इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस अपने आप में कोई एक चीज नहीं है. ये 5 विधाओं का, 5 कलाओं का, 5 ट्रेट्स का, 5 क्वालिटीज का समूह है. और अगर ये पांचों क्वालिटीज, ये पांचों स्किल्स, ये पांचों competencies हम practice करते हैं, we practice all these 5 traits, we become what is known as an emotionally intelligent person. Okay. Now, what does this entail? We'll try to explore. Uh, Dr. Rashmi, how much time do I have?
We can take it's up to you, sir.
Okay, fair enough. So it's already 3:30. I'll take 10-15 minutes more.
Yeah.
Participants, are you okay if because I started late? Are you enjoying the session, first of all? I hope it is not of a torture for you. Yeah. Oh, thank you for giving me the permission. Oh, thank you, Devan. Thank you, Divya. Enjoying. Thank you, Dr. Neelam. Thank you, Krishanji. Thank you, Neeta. 100%. Oh, that's encouraging. That's really encouraging. I'm so glad. Let me take you. Please have a look at this slide. What this slide is all about. What is the slide talking about? This slide, can you can you tell me? The mind is like a gold mine. If you dig deep, you will find something golden. Yes, one is full of potential, self-realization. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nee. Everything that we're looking for lies within us. Yes. So why don't we explore? Why don't we dig deep? This slide talks about self-awareness. It is the ability, Atma Parikshan. Yes, of course. Ashwin, thank you. Know our potential. Amrut, thanks. Thanks, Kanchan. We have to explore our own mind. This is about self awareness, and I'm talking about self awareness not as an isolated, independent attribute. I'm talking it in the context of emotional intelligence. So, self awareness underneath emotional intelligence umbrella is about recognizing and understanding one's moods, motivations, and abilities, and also understanding the effects they have on others. That is important. To achieve a state of complete self awareness, an individual must be able to monitor their own emotional state and identify their emotions. You see, how many of you can say that when you feel happy, where in the part of your body do you feel happy? Is there a sensation? When you feel anger, where do you actually feel that anger? Or when you feel anxiety? No, all these emotions are present in the part of your body where you feel happy. That is all linked to self awareness.
Sir,
Can you
sir,
can,
hear me?
can you hear me now?
Yes, for like 30 seconds or so, you are not audible.
Sorry, so sorry. So what I'm trying to say is, how many of us can actually say that when I feel anxious, when I feel fear, this is the part of my body I feel my fear in. When I feel anxious, this is the part of the body I feel anxious in. No, Dr. Chinu, no, that is not the heart. We don't feel anything from the heart. Let me tell you that. शायरों ने बहुत बड़ा कंफ्यूजन क्रिएट कर रखा है. वो सोचते हैं कि जज्बात दिल में है, दिल में कुछ नहीं है. दिल इज ओनली अ पंपिंग ऑर्गन. लेट मी टेल यू दैट. That is what emotion, self awareness is all about. You see, also, what are our values? What drives us? What it is that we look forth to? All this comes under self awareness. Okay, let me take you further. Have a look here. Emotionally intelligent people are self aware. We learned about that. Second trait that they have is they are self motivated. If you can dream it, you can do it. You know, it is like this, that they might be the only person who believes in themselves, but that is enough. It takes one star to pierce a universe of darkness. It's called intrinsic motivation, the motivation which comes from inside. And there is a difference between intrinsic and extrinsic. When we are motivated extrinsically, we are driven, our actions are driven by something that are external to us: position, power, fame, money. I'm not saying it is wrong. No, I'm only saying what motivates us. So extrinsic motivation is for people who are driven by things which are beyond them. Intrinsic motivation is our emotionally intelligent people are driven by intrinsic motivation, and these are the people for whom results don't matter. They will keep going from one failure to another, but their spirits will not be dampened because for them it is the fruit of the labor that they are in. And if you look at entrepreneurs, if you look at inventors, you will see it is a very famous story from about Sir Thomas Alva Edison that he failed 1,000 times before he was able to discover the bulb. And when asked about how he felt, he said, I have learned about 1,000 ways the bulb doesn't work. That is self motivation. You see? So, emotional, intelligent, EI people, emotional. Is it better now? Is the voice okay now? Is the voice okay now? Okay, thank you. They have a
Yes, your
passion.
voice is okay now.
Okay, thank you. They have a passion to fulfill their own inner needs and goals. They seek inner rewards. Experience flow from being totally in tune with an activity, and they pursue peak experiences. This is what in a intrinsic motivation is all about. And this is what emotionally intelligent leaders practice. You see, so those who are competent in this area, they tend to be action oriented. They set goals, have a higher need for achievement, and are always looking for a way to do better. So these are the people who they might be teaching the same course year after year, but each year the way they deliver that course is going to be different. Their slides are going to be different, their chapters are going to be different, their references are going to be different, their examples are going to be different. Identify if there are any such people in your team, or do you do that way? And that is what the hallmark of a emotionally intelligent uh, leader is. What is this slide all about? This is the third component. Talks about self regulation. So when we self regulate well, we are able to control the trajectory of our emotional lives. Emotionally intelligent person or a leader doesn't mean that he doesn't feel emotion. कोई कहता है मुझे गुस्सा तो आता ही नहीं है, अब तो मैंने सब छोड़ दिया है. That is not emotional intelligence, that is suppression. That is very very dangerous. If somebody says I don't care, अब मैं affect नहीं होता या affect नहीं होती, that is dangerous. Self regulation means that you are able to control the impulse to act, the ability to think before you speak or react, and the ability to express yourself appropriately. You see, these are the components. It means being able to take responsibility for your actions, being able to adapt to change, and being ability to respond appropriately to other people's irrational behavior. Just think of the situation. We walk into the staff room and our colleague, who we have known to be a quiet person, suddenly screams or shouts at us. And what do? We immediately react. और हम क्या कहते हैं, आज उसने मुझसे ऐसे बोला कैसे, उसकी हिम्मत कैसे हुई? We don't think he has not behaved or she has not behaved the same way ever. This is the first time. So there must be a reason behind that. We don't allow, we react immediately. And what happens then? The relations get spoiled. So self regulation is not about not feeling an emotion, it is about expressing the emotions appropriately. It seems इसका मतलब है कि if I have an argument with you and you feel bad, so you don't respond back, you don't fight back. But 3 days down the line, 5 days down the line, you walk up to my cabin and say, Ashish, I did not like the way you spoke that way. It made me feel so and so. Forget about the classes, dear friends. Forget about the team. Put it in your family. How many times we have fought with our husbands, with our wives, with our family members, and we have spoiled so many things just because we were not able to emotionally self regulate ourselves. Yeah, makes sense. Another fourth component, see the light in each other and be the light for each other. What is this all about? This is about empathy. Too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, or a kind word, a listening ear, or an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. That is what empathy is all about. You would have examples of your students who, when they have been troubled, you have only listened to them and they value you for this for the rest of their lives. 10 years down the line, you have forgotten them, they have not. And they come back on reunions, on alumni meet, and they touch your feet and tell you, and you have forgotten their faces, and they tell you, you don't know how. Neelam, please ask me this question once this session concludes. I like to answer that because you have been able to touch their lives. So the only way to change someone's mind is to connect with them from the heart, and that is what empathy is all about. You know, pick up Satya Nadella's book, hit refresh, or look at Sundar Pichai's note to his team when his off headquarters, when his YouTube headquarters were, there was a shooting there. They're both about people and leading with empathy. We'll talk about that more. Yeah, we have a session on empathy. Finally, when we focus on others, our world expands. Very, very potent. What do you do when you pick up a fight? What do you do when we have an argument? We stop talking. That's the first thing. When we have a personality difference, yes, what do? We avoid. That's the first reaction. This is the trait of EI, which is called social skills or relationship building. And it talks about a very important aspect that we are not different, me and you, even if we are from different stages, different backgrounds, there is always a common ground between all of us. So even if we have arguments, even if we have fights, even if we have ideological differences, an emotionally intelligent person will always seek to find out the common ground. And this common ground is found by practicing empathy. If you cannot be empathetic, you can never discover common grounds. And true emotional understanding involves more than just understanding your emotions and those of others. You must also be able to put this information to work in your daily interactions and communications. And that is where your social skills come. So, initially, in the start of the session, somebody said active listener and all that. Yes, that is what it comes. Listening, verbal communication, non-verbal communication, persuasiveness. This is normally called emotional maturity. Someone who has good communication skills, good time management, ability to manage, he is able to resolve difficult situations or conflict because he's able to create that common ground, bring everyone together. Yeah, that is what relationship skills is. That is what these five integrated components together make up EI. So the integration of these competencies lead to the development of what is known as emotional intelligence. And practicing emotional intelligence at all times enables us to become actual true leaders. Yeah, this is all about from my side, dear friends. Thank you so much for being a lovely audience. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Should you want to reach out to me, these are my coordinates, my mail ID, and my numbers. I'm available on them. This is also my WhatsApp number. Any queries from your side, I'd love to handle that. Okay. Thank you so very much.